Yesterday, context parameters I given. Context parameters are common to all Servlets or specific to Servlet? Common to all Servlets. How to configure? How many tags required? 3 tags. What are the tags required? Context param, param name, param value tags. Now, next write it. To retrieve context parameters from web.xml to Servlet, to retrieve context parameters from web.xml to Servlet, we use the following method of jakarta.servlet context interface. To retrieve context parameters from web.xml to Servlet, we use the following method of jakarta.servlet context interface. To retrieve context parameters from web.xml to Servlet, we use the following method of jakarta.servlet context interface. Public abstract string get init parameter. Method name also again init parameter only. Parameter string. Public abstract string get init parameter string. Okay. Public abstract string get init parameter string. To retrieve context parameters from web.xml to Servlet, we use the following method of jakarta.servlet context interface. Yesterday, you have seen method name same, but interface name what was there? Servlet config. Today, get init parameter, method name, and interface is Servlet context. Yesterday, Servlet config we used. Today, Servlet context we are using. Servlet config specific to Servlet. Servlet context common to all Servlets. See. Yesterday, I didn't save anything. Okay, these all init parameters. I'll make it context parameters. See, init parameters I'll remove. We have to configure after web app before Servlet. After web app before Servlet. These are context parameters. So where we have to write in a XML also, the location also important. This is already written yesterday. Now how to retrieve in Servlet, we'll see. This is your scene yesterday. Now in login Servlet. Here yesterday we used it like this with the config dot get init parameter I called yesterday, but today we record context, but there is no context reference. So we have only config reference. We do not have context reference. How to get context? Next node. To get Servlet context, use the following method of jakarta.servlet config interface. Public abstract Servlet context get Servlet context. Public abstract Servlet context get Servlet context. To retrieve context parameters from web.xml to Servlet, we use the following method of jakarta.servlet context interface, that is get init parameter. To get Servlet context, use the following method of Servlet config interface, get Servlet context. So first you have to call get Servlet context, then context comes. With that, you have to call get init parameter. Name you have to pass, value comes. Over. See, this method we have to call. Then you'll get a Servlet context. After getting context, call this method. You'll get a context parameter. See, why method name is get init parameter? Context parameters also for initialization only. That's what init parameter only will call. But only difference, these are common to all Servlets. Whatever I given yesterday, those are specific to Servlet. That is only different. Okay. Now, here, first we require context. What we have to write? This method we have to call. Then you will get a context. But this method in which interface? Servlet config. Config already present, no? What we have to write? Servlet context sc equal to config dot get Servlet context. After this, with this context, you can call this method. What we have to write? In the place of config sc. That's it. Okay. In the place of config sc Servlet context. Like this you can write over. Now program is completed. That's it. Remaining same. Okay. Now same thing you can use in registration Servlet also, because it is common to all Servlets. Registration Servlet. Here also you can write. Here also this driver URL, username, password you can remove. Now first context required. What we have to write? Servlet context sc equal to config dot get Servlet context. After this, string s1 equal to sc dot get init parameter. Parameter name driver. I given in the XML. Next, string s2 equal to sc dot get init parameter. Parameter name URL. Next, string s3 equal to sc dot get init parameter username. Next, string s4 equal to sc dot get init parameter password. Here class dot for name s1 Get connection S2, S3, S4 over. Now registration Servlet also now database independent. Right click, run on server. Login Servlet, registration Servlet, both save. Web.xml also save. Here homepage.html. First here I'll open SQL prompt. Total 2 users are there. One more user I'm going to register. Say registration reg. Now submit. You have registered successfully. Click on login. Say login form. Username. Okay. Now triple A or triple C also. Say login. Triple C just now registered. See, now you can check here. Login Servlet also working, registration Servlet also working. Now both the programs are database independent. If you want to change the database, now what are the changes required? Where we have to change? In which program we have to change? Web.xml file. No need to change reg Servlet, no need to change login Servlet. Because now these both the programs are database independent. So it doesn't know which database connected also. After retrieving initialization parameter from web.xml, it knows. Okay. If you want to change the database, you need to change web.xml. No need to change login Servlet, no need to change registration Servlet. Now just example, any one Servlet, write it, login Servlet or registration Servlet. Example, login Servlet .java. Login Servlet.java. No need to write complete program, only init method enough. Okay, only init method enough. Write this one. Example, login Servlet.java. Write this one. So first you have to retrieve Servlet context. After getting Servlet context, you have to retrieve context parameters. Now initialization parameters, context parameters. Initialization parameters, config required. Context parameters, context, Servlet context required. Okay. Writing program almost same, only one line different. See this line. This line only additional. Here yesterday config dot get init parameter. Now context dot get init parameter. Okay. Context also through config you are getting. Now how many times I configured in web.xml? How many times I configured? One time. How many times I used it here? Two times. Login Servlet also we used it. Registration Servlet also used it. Okay. Is it over? Next. Initialization parameters versus context parameters. 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 Now, note down. Initialization parameters are used to initialize Servlet. Context parameters are also used to initialize Servlet. Initialization parameters are used to initialize Servlet. Context parameters are also used to initialize Servlet. Initialization parameters are used to initialize Servlet. Context parameters are also used to initialize Servlet. Now, initialization parameters are used to initialize Servlet. Context parameters are also used to initialize Servlet. Okay. In previous programs, what we initialized? That means only written notes, but you didn't think what we initialized. Now, actually, you observe what I given here, initialization parameters. These notes yesterday also written. Initialization parameters are used to initialize Servlet. Context parameters are also used to initialize Servlet. What we initialized? What did? Servlet config, Servlet context not initialized. Servlet config already created by web container. In previous programs, what we initialized? Initialization, core Java initialization is studied, no? What we initialized in these programs? What is it? Different answers coming. What is it? Connection we initialized. Connection. Here, you observe. Connection. This is we initialized here. Connection initialized. Parameters, what purpose to initialize? But connection purpose, this is required. So connection is a instance variable. It is initialized here with helping of driver, URL, username, password. So initialization means not only employee number, name, salary. In core Java, you learn like that only. Because in advanced Java, like different. This example in core Java also explained theoretically while teaching constructor and methods difference at the time. I explained. So here connection initialized. This connection initialized here with helping of S2, S3, S4. S2, S3, S4, nothing but URL, username, password. Driver, URL, username, password. These all be written in XML. So what purpose we used initialization parameters and context parameters. Servlet. What we initialized in this program? Connection. In this program, connection. Maybe another program other. But here, whatever you are writing variables, those variables initialized. So connection initialized. Now connection con, is it instance variable or class variable or local variable? What is it? Instance variable. You already studied in core Java. If you want to initialize instance variable, what we required? How to initialize instance variable in core Java? You studied now? What is that? Constructor. Constructor required. Constructor. Instance variable initialization possible with constructor only. Like that you studied in core Java class. Okay. Instance variable initialization. Say, I given many examples about this. Class employee. Now, first of all, you have to select variables. How to select variables? You studied. How many types of variables? 3 types. What are those? Instance variables, class variables, local variables. When we have to select instance variable, if the value is different. When we have to use class variable, value is same. When we have to select local variable, task to perform the task. Now, employee number, which variable required? Which variable? Instance variable. Why you selected instance variable? Because every employee number will be different. Employee name, instance variable. Employee salary. Now, why we selected employee number, name, salary as an instance variable? Different values. So, integer employee number, string, name, float, salary. When memory allocated? Whenever object is created. Suppose I am writing here 101. Here I am writing some name. Here I am writing salary. Now, if I create object, if I create 5 objects, suppose 5 employees are there, 5 objects I'll create. Employee E1 equal to new employee, employee E2 equal to new employee, like this will create. Now, will you get a same data or a different data? That is the reason this is not the right way to initialize. So we should not initialize like this. How to initialize? How to initialize? With helping of constructor. Default constructor or parameter constructor? Parametered constructor required. Here, integer employee number, string, name, float, salary. Okay. Now these 3, which type of variables? local variables. These three, if both are same, how to write? This dot employee number equal to employee number. This dot name equal to name. This dot salary equal to salary. Now, are these two lines are valid or not valid? Valid or not valid? Why it is not valid? There is no default constructor. When Java compiler implicitly provide default constructor, if there is no other constructor, already constructor is there, it will not provide. So now you can pass employee number 101, name of the employee, and the salary of the employee. Like this, you can pass. Now you will get a same value or different values. This is the right way to initialize. This is the right way to initialize. So by using parametered constructor, will initialize. But here also constructor is there, no? But why init method? This is also you can initialize with constructor, no? Why init method? Now constructor you can use, no? But why init method? Why we cannot use constructor here? Now you observe these three, which type of variables? Instance variable. To initialize instance variables, what we require? Parametered constructor. Okay. But here also you can use parametered constructor. But why init method? Object is created by web container. We are not creating. Object is created by web container. Now here you may write one variable, you may write two variables, you may write three variables, you may write four variables. But how server knows how to create object with one parameter or two parameter or three parameter? It doesn't know. Creating object. That's what it will create object with a default constructor only. It will create object with a default constructor only. It doesn't know parametered constructor. If you write also how to pass, we are not creating object, no? Who will create object? That is the reason init method we are using for initialization. And that too, Servlet Config communicates with web.xml. Servlet Context communicate with web.xml. That is the reason we are not going. We cannot use constructor in this program. We should use init method only. If you write with parametered constructor, how server knows how many parameter it has to pass, how to create object? It doesn't know. That is the reason init method introduced. With init method we can access. And that too, web.xml configuration required. Now this method, lifecycle method, server knows. But if you write parametered constructor, server doesn't know. Lifecycle method, it's just like a main method type. It is automatically called, no? So that's what we are using init method. Okay. This method we are using for initialization only. How many times init method called? One time. How many times constructor called? For one object, one time only. For one object, one time only constructor also. So it is also initialization. Now it is also initialization. New way prepared. That's it. Okay. So here initialization parameters are used to initialize Servlet. Context parameters are used to initialize Servlet. Initialization parameters we written driver, URL, username, password. Context parameters also same username, password. This only we use it. And what purpose we use it to initialize? What we initialize? Connection. To establish connection, parameters required. Driver, URL, username, password. Okay. Now Both are same purpose. Both are same purpose. But what's the difference? It is specific to Servlet. It is common to all Servlets. Note down. Initialization parameters are specific to Servlet. Context parameters are common to all Servlets. Initialization parameters are specific to Servlet. Context parameters are common to all Servlets. Initialization parameters are specific to Servlet. Context parameters are common to all Servlets. See, yesterday, initialization parameters we configured for login Servlet. For login Servlet, we configured. Can we use for registration Servlet same parameter? No. Again, you have to configure. But context parameter, common to all. Okay? That's the difference. To configure initialization parameters, we use init param, comma, param name and param value tags in web.xml. To configure context parameters, we use context param, comma, param name and param value tags in web.xml. To configure initialization parameters, we use init param, param name and param value tags in web.xml. To configure context parameters, we use context param, param name and param value tags in web.xml. To configure initialization parameters, we use init param, param name and param value tags in web.xml. To configure context parameters, we use context param, param name and param value tags in web.xml. To retrieve initialization parameters, we use get init parameter method of Servlet Config interface. To retrieve initialization parameters, we use get init parameter method of Servlet Config interface in a Servlet. To retrieve context parameters, we use get init parameter method of Servlet context interface in a Servlet. To retrieve initialization parameters, we use get init parameter method of Servlet config interface in a Servlet. To retrieve context parameters, we use get init parameter method of Servlet context interface in a Servlet. Where? It is interface name. It is interface name. Get solid context is a method, but get init parameter only we use. Get solid context for getting solid context. For retrieving context parameters, get init parameter only. Method name same. Get init parameter, both the places. These are the differences between initialization parameters and context parameters. Now, next, Servlet config versus Servlet context. Servlet config versus Servlet context. One side Servlet config. One side Servlet context. Servlet config versus Servlet context. One side Servlet config, one more side Servlet context. Servlet config versus Servlet context. When it is created, whenever init method is called. When it is created, this already you studied. When Servlet config created, when Servlet context created. Servlet config is created by web container whenever init method is called. When init method is called, whenever fast request comes, that is okay. When Servlet context created, whenever web application is deployed on server. So which one created first? Servlet context only created. Whenever you click on deploy button, then only created. But we didn't use in every program context created, config created. But only for yesterday we used it, today we used it. Previous programs also created. Okay. Now it is created by web container. It is created by web container whenever init method is called. It is created by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. It is created by web container whenever init method is called. It is created by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. It is created by web container whenever init method is called. It is created by web container whenever web application is deployed on server. So whenever you deploy, then only it is created. This is whenever init method called. Init method is called whenever first request comes, then it is created. Okay. Suppose in a web application, 10 servlets are there. In a web application, 10 servlets are there. How many configs created? How many? 10. How many contexts? 1. Web container creates Servlet config one per Servlet. One per Servlet. Web container creates Servlet context one per web application. Web container creates Servlet config one per Servlet. Web container creates Servlet context one per web application. It is used to retrieve initialization parameters from web.xml. It is used to retrieve context parameters from web.xml. It is used to retrieve initialization parameters from web.xml. It is used to retrieve context parameters from web.xml. It is used to retrieve initialization parameters from web.xml. It is used to retrieve context parameters from web.xml. Is it over? See, you studied request parameters, initialization parameters, and context parameters. Three concepts you studied. Request parameters you studied. Initialization parameters you studied. Context parameters you studied. To retrieve request parameters, which method we used? To retrieve request parameters, which method we used? Method name get parameter. Get parameter method in which interface? Servlet request. Servlet request. To retrieve initialization parameters, which method we used? Get init parameter. That method in which interface? Servlet config. To retrieve context parameter, which method we used? Get init parameter. That method in which interface? Servlet context. Okay. These three you studied. These all from HTML. These two from XML. From HTML you can retrieve this one. XML means this one. Okay. But it is specific to Servlet. It is common to all Servlets. That's the difference. But instead of XML, we are using annotations also. No? Suppose these all, if you want to write in annotation without XML, it is possible. Okay. Write it. The above initialization parameters difference is over. Next concept. The above initialization parameters can be configured. The above initialization parameters can be configured in a Servlet by using annotations also. The above initialization parameters can be configured in a Servlet by using annotations also. The above initialization parameters can be configured in a Servlet by using annotations also. Example, how to configure, you see. You already studied. If you want to write URL pattern of one Servlet, which annotation we use it? At web Servlet. At web Servlet, we written like this. Okay. We written like this at web Servlet. After that, suppose login. Login like this, we written at web Servlet and login like this, we written. But now, if you want to write, what you have to do is you have to write like this. Here, URL patterns equal to URL patterns equal to slash login, comma, init params equal to braces. These all in a one line also you can write. Like this also you can write. Now, here at web init param, one parameter at web init param name equal to driver, comma, value equal to oracle.jdbc.driver.oracle driver. Okay, like this, comma, at web init param name equal to URL, value equal to JDBC colon Oracle colon thin colon at localhost colon 1521 colon XC, comma, at web init param name equal to username, value equal to system, comma, at web init param name equal to password, value equal to manager. See, like this you have to write at web init at web Servlet. After that, URL pattern like this, init params. This is one parameter. This is one parameter. And this is one more parameter. This is one more parameter. This is one more parameter. After that, brace like this you have to write. That means it is a URL pattern of login Servlet. For login Servlet, these are initialization parameters. So if you want to configure by using annotations, you have to write like this. You have to write like this. Okay, write this one. Then what you can do here, public class login Servlet extends HTTP Servlet. Let this remaining code same. Remaining code you can write like this. Just example, note on this one. So this is one more way to configure. So these all automatically comes if you don't select XML. If it is not coming, you type. Sometimes maybe immediately may not recognize. Then again XML only may be generated. Sometimes always annotation generated. XML may not be generated. Is it over? Now, these are initialization parameters or context parameters. These are initialization parameters. That means specific to Servlet or common to all Servlets? Specific to Servlet. Okay. But context parameters not possible because where you are configuring in login Servlet, then you can access only login Servlet. But context parameters also, how will write? It is you are configuring in Servlet. Whichever Servlet you configure, that Servlet can use. That's what context parameters not possible with annotations. Got it? Now, this complete code where we are writing in Servlet program we are writing, those parameters only for that Servlet. Got your point? So whatever we configured here, these all only for login Servlet. Okay. XML we are writing initialization parameter, context parameter like that, but here not possible, only init parameter. Okay. Now this concept introduced in Servlet's 3.0 version. Write that point. Node. Annotations in Servlets introduced in Servlet 3.0 version. Annotations in Servlets introduced in Servlet 3.0 version. Annotations in Servlets introduced in Servlet 3.0 version. Annotations in Servlets introduced in Servlet's Servlet 3.0 version. Servlet's 3.0 version. These concepts, annotations are introduced in Servlet's 3.0 version. Servlet's also versions are there. Okay. See, is it over? See here. Here, file, new, dynamic web project. Here, dynamic web module version 5.0. If we click here, see 2.2, 2.3, 2.4 like that, all are there. No? Suppose if we select 2.5, this is not possible. Annotation is not possible. 3.0 onwards. 3.0 onwards possible. Okay. So while selecting dynamic web module 3.0 and above required, then XML comes, annotations comes. By mistake, suppose 2.5 selected, you are trying to write annotation, error comes. Okay. Is it clear? This is about request parameters, initialization parameters, and context parameters. Okay. Next concept, Servlet forwarding. Note. Servlet forwarding. Next concept, Servlet forwarding. Note. Forwarding request and response of one Servlet to another Servlet. Forwarding request and response of one Servlet to another Servlet is called as Servlet forwarding. Forwarding request and response of one Servlet to another Servlet is called as Servlet forwarding. See, concept name is Servlet forwarding. Concept name is Servlet forwarding. But Servlet, it is not forwarded. What is forwarded? Request and response of one Servlet to another Servlet forwarded. That is only we are calling like a Servlet forwarding. Servlet forwarding concept name is Servlet forwarding. That Servlet it is not forwarded to next Servlet. Only request and response is forwarded to next Servlet. That concept we are calling like a Servlet forwarding. Okay. Now the diagram I'll give, program I'll give. Write this one. Okay. First listen. See. First Servlet. Second Servlet. Third Servlet. See, it is web container or web server. Web server. In this server, 3 Servlets. First Servlet. Suppose second Servlet. Third Servlet. Now, from client system, I'll send the request to first Servlet. It is web client, nothing but browser. Here, URL pattern of first Servlet, I'll write. Suppose HTTP : 2/ localhost : 8082 forward first. Now, here it is war file name, it is URL pattern. From here, I'll send the request to first solid. This request is called HTTP request. This solid code executed. This solid code executed. This solid code executed. After that, forwarded. Here we'll write forward. Forward. Request and response forwarded. Here. Second solid code executed. After that, request and response forwarded to third solid. See, like this, response comes from third solid. Response comes from third solid. HTTP response. Now, here, I'm sending request to which solid? First solid. So I'm sending request to first solid. First solid executed. It will forward the request and response to second solid. Second solid executed. It will forward the request and response to third solid. Third solid sends the response to browser. Total how many solids executed? 3 solids executed. But browser doesn't know how many solids executed. Browser is sending request to first solid. Response received from third solid. But it doesn't know how many solids executed in this case. But what is the use of this one? I'll explain. Write this one. We are sending request to which solid? First solid. Response coming from which solid? Third solid. So total how many solids executed? 3 solids. But this information browser doesn't know. Client will send the request to first solid and the response comes from third solid. What browser understands is it may be response from first solid only, because it doesn't know. It is sending request to first solid and the response comes. Seeing that response, it will understand it is first solid response only, it will understand. It doesn't know. When we have to use this one is, if the task is very big, instead of writing complete code in a one solid, you can divide into many solids. In core Java, are you writing complete code in the main method only? No, you are writing many methods. Main method to other method, other method to other method you are calling, no? Like that. Like that here, instead of writing complete task code in a one solid, the task you can divide into many solids. If the task is very big, then only you have to use this concept. Suppose only 10 lines code is there. 4 lines here, 3 lines here, 3 lines here, you should not write. Okay. Then 3 solids, memory, 3 solids, object creation, forwarding, this much process, everything wasted. If the task is very big, in that situation, you have to divide your task into number of solids. So what is the benefit is modularity. Write it. Is it over? No done. The main advantage of Servlet forwarding is modularity. The main advantage of Servlet forwarding is modularity. The main advantage of Servlet forwarding is modularity. Modularity means dividing a task into number of modules. That is called modularity. This is just a theory part I given. Okay. Programming tomorrow I'll explain. One NASCAM people, they are conducting one exam. That exam details I'll provide you. But to write that exam, core Java, advanced Java, Oracle, these 3 should be completed. Okay. Those who completed core Java, advanced Java, and Oracle, those people eligible to write NASCAM exam. So already you know, while joining in a full stack Java course, little information you know about this course. NASCAM people, they designed this course, full stack Java developer program. Okay, total how many modules are there? 5 modules. First one, Java modules. Second one, database modules. Third one, UI modules. Fourth one, testing modules. Fifth one, development security operations. Okay, DevOps modules, development security operations modules. Here in the Java modules, core Java, advanced Java, Spring. Okay, database modules, Oracle, SQL, PLSQL. UI modules, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap, Angular. Testing modules, Selenium, manual testing, Selenium, JUnit, these all. Development security operation, 10 plus tools are there. Maven, Gradle, Jira, Agile, these all many are there. Okay. But no need to complete these all. Those who completed core Java, advanced Java, and Oracle, those people are eligible to write NASCAM exam. If you pass exam, what are the benefits? You will get it certificate from NASCAM. Okay, that certificate, valuable certificate, that is in interviews also, seeing that certificate, they'll give highest priority for those candidates. Okay, and one more benefit, 50% of the fee, you will get it back. Whatever you paid for full stack Java, 50% of the fee also, you will get it back. The exam pattern and how to register, those all details I'll provide you. One class I'll take about that. Okay, one class I'll take how to register for that exam and how exam pattern, multiple choice questions with multiple answers will be there. Okay, multiple choice question, multiple answers. So multiple choice questions, not multiple answers means not so easy. Okay, that exam pattern also I'll explain. Multiple choice question, only one answer means it is easy. Multiple choice question, multiple answers will be there. Different type will be there. That exam pattern also I'll explain. And how to register for that exam also I'll explain. And complete exam details I'll provide you. One class I'll take about that. But those who completed core Java, advanced Java and Oracle, those people only eligible to write. Okay. First you have to register for that exam. That exam will be online exam only. Online exam. And your mobile number, mail ID, whatever is given to Naresh ID, that mobile number, that mail ID, and as well as your first name, last name, everything according to Aadhaar card number, everything required, proper way. Otherwise, they may reject. Okay. The complete details, right information according to Aadhaar, you have to provide. That complete details I'll provide you. After completion of the course, just take 10-15 days minimum to prepare. Then you write exam. Okay. Once if you pass that exam, you will get a certificate you'll get it, as well as 50% of the fee you will get it back. That is not Naresh IT people providing, government people they're providing that fee. Fee reimbursement is there. 50% fee you will get it back. Okay. That details further I'll explain. Before completing course only, details I'll provide, exam pattern also I'll provide. Okay. We'll see continuation tomorrow.